everybody's still with me. Is everybody still there? I think here I want to get the basic. I don't have any more black cards besides Gris. So I'll take my Ancestral Recall for the turn. I'm near to I'm seeing Gris in a few different green decks, but it doesn't seem powerful on the surface. Can you explain why it's used? I think the deck that you played in also matters a lot. Esper 87. Within the context of elves, it's tutorable removal that you can find off Green Sun Zenith. Also can be found off Once Upon a Time. Look, it looks like it's Reanimator. So that explains why they took the Gris. The other thing is like against control decks, they have a hard time beating it. The removal part is probably the keyest part, to be honest. Very awkward here that the Gris is in the yard. It's kind of like the Swiss Army knife is probably the best way I can think of it. Esper 87. Yeah, that's probably the best way I can think of it. Oh, that's brutal. Oh, that is brutal. Notably, I think I would have gone Gristlebrand if I were my opponent, but now we are just. It's a planeswalker you can tutor for that is removal, which green decks have a hard time typically having consistent access to, especially one like elves that doesn't play like Swords to Plowshares or anything like that main deck. I think we just play everything and then pray, so to speak. You can natural. Oh, so that's the other thing, right? It kind of does a little bit of everything. It's like a Swiss Army knife, and then in the face of a Containment Priest, it's a nice insurance too, right? Like if your opponent flashes in Containment Priest, the ability to get a Planeswalker and kill the Containment Priest or tick up is a nice insulation there. We do have lethal, notably. If we top deck the natural order, they're playing the mono black version, which is interesting. Alright, we're dead. It can also win the game if you remember the flavor text. Sure, that happens every once in a while. Not very often, but it does happen. Something to definitely keep in mind, but we're dead here. The good thing is, I do feel very confident about the Reanimator matchup. Granted, I don't know what's going on here with their utility lands. The Shizo kind of concerns me that maybe they have like Marilage or something as well. But nevertheless, I think we cannot afford to board an agent in case they reanimate it. It also doesn't come down on time. Is the issue with agent in this matchup. But that's only, speculation, right? So far, I've gotten 0 Gris wins with the ult, but there are games opponents have conceded earlier where it might have been possible. Yeah, so that's the thing, right? Usually, if you can do that, you're probably way ahead. But the thing is, like, especially in a critical mass deck like Elves, I think this is probably where it's, like, at its best, right? You get a bit of board, which is relevant for Natural Order, relevant for Gaia's Cradle, which are, like, just 2 bombs, right, in the matchup. And then against these control decks, like they just have a hard time, dealing with a consistent stream of creatures. It's like a tutorable Bitter Blossom against these control decks. Not to mention it can kill a Planeswalker in a pinch, or kill a creature in a pinch. Yeah, I think it's probably at its best in Legacy in Elves, and I know it's very good in the Yawgmoth deck in Modern. So there is that. I think this is like reasonable. What are the utility lands that they saw? We saw like a Shizo. We saw that some strange lands going on here. I don't think we can keep this because it doesn't even have the natural turn two Bajuka Bog consistently. Oh my goodness. Shoot. That is not where I want to be. Alright. It took a while, but we got there. Ironically enough, I feel like Heritage Druids plural keep are the putbacks here. I think the Boseiju is actually highly relevant. This card like solos the matchup, right? Uh oh. Sure. Ah, man, I cannot believe I'm losing to this. Did I not draw any of my endurances? And discard? Yikes. Alright. I mean, it is what it is. Probably that. Kind of unfortunate, to be honest. I mean, like, it's just so dangerous to do that against an elf player, but I mean, I guess. Hmm. We're dead in 2 turns, so I think our out is actually to do this line. We pitch the Rangers and hope we top deck the Gris. Also, notably, we had 2 murderers cut as outs too, so maybe 3 outs. I cannot believe I'm losing to this. It's the reanimator players who don't play around anything that I end up losing to a lot of times, which is funny, right? Yeah. I can beat like the Eric Landons of the world, but I will lose to the players who don't play around anything. All right. Unfortunate. I think. I think we mode a 5 already, if I recall. And then we kept a turn 1 reclaimer. And they had a turn 1 archon, which is unfortunate. So let's see. Yeah, we mold to 6. We mold to 5. I think we have to keep there. I don't think either of. Yeah, our turn 7 or 6. Neither of them had. Good question, Esper87. I would say the only time it may matter is. I'm trying to think. How would your opponent steal it? Like, if your opponent stole it for some reason and then, you know, has like an ice fang or something, right? That would be one way, but I feel like that's hard. I can't think of any examples off the top of my head. Um, the main reason why it's relevant though, I think, is because in case somebody with a bauble deck reveals it, you're not giving away that you're on a green sun deck, right? Because most of the blue control players will be playing snow to at least fake being on bant, right? Because of Ice Fang specifically. It could be relevant in something like 4C Esper Vial as well, or Esper plus green, right? Vial. Though, pretty fringe to be honest. I'll admit. Esper 87. So if you want to play like normal basics, I think that's like perfectly reasonable, and for the most part, you're not gonna lose any percentage points. Yeah. So honestly, yeah, it's to keep them guessing if they bobble you and like they see a basic force without snow. Odds are you're not on snow control, right, or like band control. So that would be like probably, in my opinion, the biggest reason. Like if they have a bobble for whatever reason, right? But pretty narrow, admittedly. So if you want to play like a normal basic, I don't really think it matters. I'm like OCD, so I can't help but play it. But again, I wouldn't fault anybody for not playing it. So when I say I'm OCD, what I mean by that is also, um, I know some of the chat members have noticed before that I'm like, I can be very tough on myself for misplays, and one of the reasons why I enjoy this deck is because it really rewards strong technical play, in addition to having the adequate power level to compete with the big boys, so to speak, or big girls. Um, so to me, I really enjoy it. So when I make a mistake, I do get on myself a little bit for that. Notably here, a little bit awkward, a little bit too many non-elf creatures in hand. Thank goodness, that's all they did. All right, we will do that into this. Nice. Into, let's see. Um so there's two lines here, right? We can ooh, just in time for the Delver matchup. Hey, Answer Key Gaming. We can either Green Sun for one and get the Visionary, but I think we want to just maximize mana, and I'm just gonna hardcast Endurance here. Actually, what I should have done was, um, I guess it doesn't matter, right? I could have just waited for my opponent to have more creatures on their end step before doing anything. That probably would have been better. Yeah, so a small misplay by me here. Because what that does is they will have less creatures in the graveyard. I think here I want to Green Sun for one. We're gonna get the Progenitus now. There's no reason to wait. Yeah. All right. Not perfect technical play there on my behalf, but we did get punished. So I like tunnel vision into the endurance when I could have just held it up. Reason to main phase there was because it was tapped out, but I feel like we're not even getting good value there if we only lose one creature in the graveyard. I mean, the one card in the graveyard. All right, we can board this package out. So the alternative here is like to board in the opposition agent. Um, and then we don't have to play the snuff out. But I do think there is merit in just not having a really awkward card like Asian in the matchup. I think this is like really good here. Keep. Notably very good. The snuff out here, right? That otherwise would have been an agent. Ooh, did not do anything turn one. I think we play it safe. This is one of the decks I'm currently building, so it's helpful. No problem, Esper 87. I'm assuming you're talking about elves, right? Turn two, do nothing. Smells like a end of festivities or rough tumble to me. If it is a rough tumble, I'm gonna be not happy. Do I want to endurance here? Probably not. Great question, Answer Key Gaming. I think it will be good. I don't think it's like anything broken. Oof. All right. 2 for 2, I guess. Sure. It's really annoying, but sure. I think the line here is actually to main. Well, let me see. Yeah, I don't. I think I'm gonna run the endurance into daze, and if they daze it, then I'm gonna bog them. Because I don't. I'm a little bit afraid of. Actually, hold on. I'm a little. Well, let me see. Once could be pretty decent here too, but the problem is I want to hold the creature. Yeah, I think I want to be mana efficient here. If they want to daze me, they can daze me. And then I think I just play the bog now. I don't think like any place no besides me. Alright, they conceded to an endurance. It's a very interesting match. It's like good and bad, right? We just beat 2 Delver players in this league, but we lost to a Delver player for the 5-0 in the previous league. But, you know, consistency is king, so I'm not gonna dwell on that too much. But actually, Answer Key Gaming, I'm gonna give you mod access since you're a Patreon subscriber. The kitten combo I think is nice in something like what does it call it with the artifact decks. I think because it's a 2-card combo with Karn. I like it less in the control matchups with Teferi, only because I think it's less consistent, and I think the kitten by itself is probably not good enough, or like kind of medium, right? But I do like it a lot in the Karn shells. Obviously, one thing you could do is just play it in a blue shell with Karn, right? And just like not play Jace the Mind Sculptor. That's like even hotter, I think. Um, it's like a mold of 6 already, but I think we keep. Oxy with the Moxie. Kind of cool name. Yeah, I wonder why nobody's done that so far. Just play Karn in your control shell with the kitten. You have like a combo finish, right? Alright, there's no... It's like a pretty ridiculous card. 0 mana, find the best card in your deck and put it into your hand. Turn 0. Absolute ridiculous card. This is what I mean, right? Like, without Once Upon a Time, that hand is just so sketchy. Interesting. Basic Mountain. Feels like... Funny enough, I thought the lands were the weakest in Neo. I think here we actually just do nothing. It could be Moonstomping and they have like Fury or some crazy thing like that. Or yeah, I just don't want to walk into a Fury here. Actually, even the Fury is a 3 for 2. Here's a 2 for 2, for whatever that's worth. Punishing Fire, interesting. Okay. I think we grow the Reclaimer here. If they Fury, we just lose on the spot. Here we're gonna put the Fury out of range. I don't even think we fetch on upkeep because we want to hit land drops. I mean that works. Now we get a Bayou. Play that. I think we want to just hold a Reclaimer. There's really no need. Definitely feels like they're trying to like walk us into a Fury, but it's kind of hard to say. They're playing very defensively here. Like tanking. Usually the Moonstompies players are usually just like click, 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 and then here they are very deliberate with each main phase. Is Fury double red? I would assume so, but I guess I don't know for sure. That helps, I guess, to committing more to the board. I think here the line is Gris. This is pretty nasty, to be honest. Our line here. Oh my god. Double nasty. So we're getting close to just hard casting Hoof. Notably, Gris out of Fury range too. Alright. That was easy mode. Card Fury. Yeah, double red. All right. Up a game. I don't think we want the black cards. Just the endurances, I think. And I think the Caracas is an upgrade over the Bog, just as another land drop. Glimpse of Nature, just hideous in this matchup. And what else? Maybe we just keep one Glimpse. It's not great. Or the Bog just as another land. I don't love it though. Yeah, maybe we just keep the one Glimpse. I don't think we really want this card. It's just like too many weird colorless lands. This awkwardly maps, right? We don't really want Glimpse of Nature in this matchup because we often just don't have the mana. We're like trying to tap out every turn. There's some merit for the Bog, admittedly, over the just as another land drop over the Glimpse of Nature, but I think the upside of Glimpse is probably worth it. Like the Bog as a tap land is pretty bad still. If we had the crop rotation, I probably would board that in over the Glimpse. Not Thoughtseize to take out Fear or Lock Piece. Um, the logic for that is because if they're on the play, a lot of times these discard spells don't do anything, and they're terrible top decks. Endurance actually plays well with how we want this game to play out. Namely, we go which this matchup typically is like you're trying to trading blows every turn, and the other thing is like they're definitely afraid of like X4s in this matchup or even X3s. So getting them to have to waste a Fury on Endurance when they don't have the mana is huge because at any second we're threatening Natural Order Progenitus, you're dead, right? Um, so that's why I like Endurance. Also, sometimes they just have the Rabble Master hands, and you just want to be able to block, right? Like you just more or less want to buy time to turn 4 or 5 where you start to take over the game. Like you're gonna be way behind the first, 2 3 turns presumably. Speaking of the devil, there's the endurance. Keep. Mm-hmm. So hopefully answered your question adequately. I think given that we have 4 lands in hand already, normally I don't like this is the exception to the rule where I don't like to fetch before Once Upon a Time. But given how many lands we have, I think it's probably okay. The Reclaimer just nuts in this matchup. Like I said, they have a hard time beating X4s. What it really does is between Reclaimer and even Nettle Sentinel to a certain extent, if you play that version, and Endurance. Ugh, okay. Hey, hi, Star. How's it going? What it means is they don't really have a clock, right? All right. Going to pass here. I don't think there's any rush to kill the Chalice because we can just get a Cradle here. If they want to moon us, they're more than welcome to. Sure. I don't think we care. Actually, we know they were on Punishing Fire, so I think we saw that. I could be wrong. Yeah, I think we did see that. So, notably here, I don't even think we care. We get punished here if we draw a Gris, notably. I don't think we are playing around the Blood Moon. Actually, yeah, let's just be safe. I don't want to just lose the game for no reason. Elves has a good matchup against Doomsday. I think so. High star. Would there be a case for Elf that gives you fourth and plus one? Are you talking about Elvish Champion? I think if like you really value that kind of Lord effect, it could be okay. I'm not a fan of 3 drops that die to ball, right? Um, for sure, yeah, answer game. Yeah, so that's the thing, right? Like endurance also gets around Chalice of the Void, and these decks typically have both Chalice of the Void and Trinisphere. So endurance is just a nice, you're just. I'm not even caring about the graveyard utility in this because it doesn't have any in this matchup, quite frankly. But it just being a 3 mana 3/4 is just hard for them to beat. Sure. What are they gonna do? Notably, pitching doesn't do anything there. I'm just gonna leave the graveyard. I want our creatures to be potentially big. Alright, here we go. I think I want to do that first. Um, we use 2 mana here. We can actually just play the Reclaimer. I think I actually like that. Um, no, it's also you don't really want to fetch black too. Is the other reason answer key came. So I think here, do we want to ramp? I feel like probably not, right? Like, we can kill the chalice, and then next step, go boom boom, and just like kill them. I think instead of like exposing, giving them the mana for this turn into something potentially really scary. So yeah, let's do that. It's a little bit telegraphed because we played the Boseiju instead of killing the chalice. But I think these type of decks have to kind of tap out. Um, like they potentially have 6 drop Chandra, which I'm a little bit afraid of. Okay, that's interesting. I guess I don't do anything now, right? Well, that's highly convenient. I think we bash with. Uh, so the line here is we're gonna end step kill the bridge and then kill them. Nothing scary, please. Uh-oh. What is that? Alright, what is going on here? Both of them plus. So I want to take it down to. I think I have to do this here now. This is actually very scary. That's pretty good. Hmm. Isn't that lethal? I go to four, play three more. This six, I think it is lethal. I'm not playing around anything here. Pretty good. Pretty good. We got rewarded for that play with a nice Green Sun top deck. Pretty nice so far. Pretty lopsided to be honest. Matchups here. We lost, like still mad when we lost to the Reanimator player. But overall still playing pretty well. I think I'll take a quick restroom break. I'll be back to try to clean this up at 4-1. I know I'll post on this too. All right, we are back. Unfortunately, not the best matchups so far today. Actually, the Artisan would have been relevant, like against Delver if we had if we needed a draw, but we had the better grist line. Agent notably was a KO against Post, so I guess it did do some work. For sure. So I think there is a chance Artisan could be good against Moonstompy, especially since you can just like it could be a Tarmogoyf potentially, right? Depending on the board state. Um, and historically, these red decks have had issues with those kind of creatures, Tarmogoyf, Night of the Reliquary, etc. Um, what was I gonna say? Agent definitely was quite good there against the post player, right? Also, Artisan was good in that matchup. Namely, it drew out a needle and then we just like tossed it after with a tabernacle. Actually, I think that is one thing that I have gotten better at realizing what matters in these tabernacle matchups, particularly against lands where I just like don't care about certain creatures like Visionary, and just like the way you win is typically natural order Progenitus, right? We were playing against CUG. Looks like they're 0-1. I don't love it. There's like some merit, by the way. I'm like thinking about going down to, dare I say, a three Glimpse of Natures, but it just seems wrong at the moment to do that. I don't think the options replacing it. on the same power level is the reasoning. Like they'd be things like, I don't know, in this list, the second virtual or whatever, right? Yeah, exactly. Answer key game. Artisan enables Vandal's graveyard cost, which help him get on the board. Actually, I haven't been able to pull it off yet because it's probably just win more. But Artisan with Gris just seems insane. But yeah, I have not been able to pull that off yet. We almost got to do it, but then they already conceded, right? Our Delver opponent. Here we're presumably playing in some Tundra Mage. If they don't answer this Reclaimer here, we're just gonna set up for Cradle the following turn. If they do, we play the Visionary. Also, if they answer it or not impacts how we fetch. If they do answer it, we fetch basic. If they don't answer it, we fetch Bayou and then rotate the Bayou away. A lot of these players. Oh, interesting. Love. A lot of these players love to try to back to basics me. I don't know why. So here again, we are. Part of me. Okay, it seems like they could potentially have removal here, right? We get blown out by a sudden edict, so I'm like tempted to main phase Reclaimer. The Bayou is kind of interesting in a Vista deck. I'm trying to think what they could have. Yeah, I think I'm just gonna do a main phase here. I don't want to be blown out by like something random like Edict. I want to get the Cradle on board, and I worry like that. It's just too important. Because I don't know what's going on with their deck, right? Like if they have like a sudden Edict for some reason, I just get blown out. Obviously, I get punished here, but I think I'm gonna make that play regardless most of the time. Sure. Obviously, it's real bad. Okay, that's okay. I was gonna say it's gonna be real bad if they stifle the bog trigger, right? Or the activation trigger. If they have the stifle here, I get blown out. I think I just like do nothing here. I do it on their upkeep, make them waste mana. I do not want any chance of an Uro escaping, so I'm playing defensively here. You a green sun for one personally. Like I said, I am not really. I'm not really concerned about. Well, we have the symbiote in hand, but I'm not really concerned about. Well, we don't know if they have sweepers or not, right? Like that's just assuming. I'm not really concerned about how to win this game. I'm concerned about how to lose this game. And one way is Euro escaping. Sure. That's really awkward, actually. Land drop here would be nice. I think here, We do that. I mean, you know, it's already a random deck, right? Like you don't see these colors typically. Nice. That's actually a huge draw here. I don't think I want to attack in case they have Ice Fang, which I'm assuming they do. They could be on Allure, to be honest. There's the Ice Fang that we talked about. Decay the Reclaimer, sure. I'm actually happy to see that. If they're playing removal spells, it means they're less likely to be on some kind of combo deck. Alright, now we try to go off. What are they pitching here? Force pitching force, sure. I think if we do it the other way, we don't have any more draws, so I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna go ahead and just like maximize draws here. That's an awkward draw. Alright, we just have to pass for one turn, right? Or we just need our opponent to pass for one turn. This is like really awkward here, but if we have the mana, the line here instead of like natural order for Archon would be natural order for Shepherd into Hoof. I think here we don't bounce. Looks like it could be the Allure that we were afraid of. Man. Alright. Let's do this. We could get lucky and get the Boseiju here. We have 3 draws. Almost. I think that is game. It wasn't coming up, unfortunately. Yeah, I was afraid of this happening. The endurance here, does that do anything? I don't think so. That's all of them. So we're just dead. Quite annoying. Do we have enough to like combo kill last turn? I feel like we did not. So they exile the glimpse. I'd have to look at the board state again. I don't recall if we had lethal. I feel like we did not though. I think with that, they just go through the thing a million times. I forgot what it's called. Azurite, I think. Something like that. I don't remember what the card is called. Let me see. Yeah, this is the card. It ventures into the dungeon and then there's like you lose a life or something like that. So I think here we're just really concerned about like just dying to the combo. Um, I think the rest is probably worth it. Yeah, there's a drain one, and then it just keeps bouncing. Is how it plays out. I probably should guess that they're on combo because there's like no fair deck on Bayou on Tropical Island for the most part. Um, Agent tends to be pretty good in this. Well, they're on like weird colors, right? I feel like if they're on white, then Agent becomes good. Um, we didn't see white though. Is the only thing. They're Ice Fang. Maybe yeah. I don't know about Agent. We'll see. Caracas. I think we definitely bored out some parts of the grindy elements. And then maybe not Agent in this specific. Actually, I brought up Druid. Ooh. Yeah, for sure, Sadra. I think I just did this kind of quickly, but I feel like we want to rest, and then we can just play a grindy game. It's notably very good. Keep. I feel. Oh my god. I feel like that's too narrow. Answer key gaming. The good thing is, luckily they don't have one mana removal, right? We need a seize here, a fetch land here. It's not bad. Just imagine getting them with the agent here would be kind of nuts. Let's see if they respond. We obviously don't have a thing to blow them out here with agent, but it's too bad. Agent would be in this scenario probably the second heritage druid for what it's worth. So if that's relevant to keep in mind. Force, sure. I think given that now, I think we can just safely play the Arbor and then do this. and then probably rotate for Bayou. Right, it protects our Thoughtseize next. Obviously, it's like real awkward. They have a Plague Engineer here. I notably didn't board up for Genes. I think we're gonna get Engineer here though. Huh, that's reasonable. Notably, we can kill through that, right? I think what we want to actually do is to seize their hand, see what they have for the next game, and then still have lethal. I think if that works out, I think the map probably works out on that. Alright, this is irrelevant cards. Veil somewhere. I always laugh when people try to get me with. It's like super high variance. It's either insane or does nothing against elves. No, no, no. I'm not scared of that card. Like if they want to try to high roll me, so be it. I think that card is actually quite bad against elves. The only thing it might consider is maybe I don't keep in the duress. That's probably the only thing I would consider. Um, Also, super suspect if they just leave it up. Now we know to play around it, right? Let me see. Do we actually care? They played a Leo, which is like some merit for Caracas, but I feel like it's kind of slow. The agent notably was quite bad there, and it doesn't seem like they're on the recruiter version, so I think I can actually just take that out. And then the Caracas could be relevant against their Leo, but I think we're gonna dare them to have it. I don't think I want a dead card. Probably the second heritage here, especially since we're on the draw, right? There's some merit for the bog, but I don't think we're playing that kind of game against Earl. Yeah, if they try to blow me out, maybe they get me, but I'm gonna take my chances. Yeah, there is some argument, like I said, for the Caracas, but I feel like we're not trying to play that kind of game. Trap, that is a interesting one for sure. It's not good against Harpy for whatever that's worth. Yeah, I think it's kind of suspect. I feel like they would probably be ready for it, but I don't know. I didn't think about that, but it's like interesting at least. Feels like Veil. I don't think I can run the C's into that. The other thing I could have done was like, feels so bad to walk into a veil, but like, I mean, maybe they have it, maybe they don't. It could be just an engineer too. That would just be the worst of the worst. Interesting lines. It definitely feels like they have veil, right? Like, why not decay before I can get the guy's cradle? I'm gonna laugh so much if they tap out for the turn and we actually seize them. Yeah, it's gotta be, right? 3 turns do nothing. Hmm. I think it's probably cor- it's probably correct here to pitch the visionary. Find an agent, but then they're in the non-white version, right? I think we have to do it here. If they have it, they have it. So I guess they didn't have it, right? I don't think we care about the sudden edict. And we definitely take the brainstorm, I think. Our opponent did get us though. We just assumed that they had bail and they did not. But maybe they're just in too far trouble now. It for sure, Sadra. For sure. Totally, totally understand. I think here we do not bounce. We go C's first and see what they have. I don't know that this is the turn 1 C's matchup anyways. I feel like you want to wait until 3-4. That might be true. It's hard to say. Like, I just don't think Veil's like very good. You like the L player can just play around it, right? Like I did right there. All right. We went 4-1. In both leagues. I think overall the deck felt good. Artisan a little bit awkward, right? Like we couldn't do what we wanted to do, but maybe that's okay. Like no, it was most relevant in the post matchup. Didn't quite have the matchups for it otherwise, but we'll see, right? I think it would have been relevant against the Delver player too, but the Delver player was just too far behind. So the agent was just insane against post, but again, that's like one matchup. I think probably still need more testing. Our losses today were to Reanimator. Excuse me. And I don't think Artisan just, I guess, gets Gris, right? Or Reclaimer. Either way. Probably Gris. And then Agent, not relevant as Reanimator. Our other loss was against Delver for the 5-0. How bad is Nettle against Delver? I think it's hideous. Like, Delver is trying to trade 1-for-1 in that matchup and trying to essentially beat you low to the ground. And Nettle is a card that needs multiple things in hand to line up. So I think that's actually one of the matches where it's, besides maybe Reanimator, right? Like where it's like noticeably worse than Reanimator. I mean Reclaimer. Correct. I think the fact that there's two things really, right? I think the fact that Reclaimer gets your best card in the deck means like the upside is just way too high, and also it just randomly hoses Reanimator, right? Like this card is a hate card that you can play in main deck that is not otherwise dead the way Leyline of the Void would be main deck. It just does too much in my opinion, like to not play. And obviously, if you still need the, I guess there's like two reasons to play Nettle, right? Like, I think if you really need the training wheels, so to speak, and you just cannot sequence correctly for the life of you, and you really need the infinite mana to win, so to speak, just play Reclaimer alongside Nettle. Like, you can still do that, right? And just like, you'll have less silver bullets made, obviously, right? You just play, Oof, Endurance, whatever, sideboard, right? And then you can still do both. It's just, this has just too much text, in my opinion. Sure, there's that too, right? Like, just imagine it. Like, if Death Right were legal with Reclaimer. Obviously, I did this in Vintage, right? Correct. So, Answer Key Gaming, what happens a lot of times in these, like, low-to-the-ground Delver matchups, because anything that goes long, you probably favor against Delver. But in these games where you're not, where they, go turn 1, DRC, turn 2, Delirium, DRC, Wasteland you, whatever, right? And then Wasteland your Arbor, for instance, or Bolt your thing. You need to have a way to potentially race, and Reclaimer getting Cradle is huge in that matchup. Not to mention, like, holding off a Murktide potentially, or DRC. I think Bog is just too insane. And that's not, assuming you don't even get Cradle, right? Against these control decks, if you untap with Reclaimer and get Cradle, the game's probably over. Like it's like playing Pokes against them, right? Like anybody who's played Cloud Post against these control decks know that they can't really beat it, and it's kind of the same thing, right? Right, so that's the other thing, right? Like 3-4 tribal. I've closed a lot of games with just bashing for 3-4 between Reclaimer and Endurance, right? Like that is like, it's crazy to say this, but I actually think there is an argument to be made. The second best creature in the deck is not Allosaurus Shepherd, not Waterwood Symbiote, but actually Endurance. I think it's Reclaimer 1, Endurance 2. I think probably the Shepherd is 3, although there's argument to be made, Waterwood's more important, but Shepherd 3, Waterwood 4. What have you experienced, Shade 920? Yeah, I guess DNT I think is like less relevant because against these creature decks, you can't really go wide as much. But just again like Wasteland being Wasteland proof more or less, right? With Reclaimer, I mean with Cradle, assuming you hit land drops, which is why I play more than the average person, uh, is why I think you just have so much grind game right, in any slower matchup. Not to mention you just hose Reanimator. Like turn one Reclaimer. If they don't kill you that turn, the game's over. Like it's kind of crazy to say. Gris I think is like very good. I think we had like one game our opponent just like scooped on the spot. How many lands is Netto on? Typically that version is not playing box, so down one there. But this is like a spell almost, so I don't really count that. And they probably play only 19 lands, right? So they cut another land. Have you ever tried? I have. During the initial development of this deck. So when I first started toying around with Reclaimer, I played one of each. The problem is the depth is just a hideous draw, and the stage is not much better. Thoughts on cutting a fourth glimpse for a fourth Reclaimer or fourth once? The fourth once is interesting. I don't think we necessarily need it, although the power level is high. The fourth Shepherd I've found to not be kind of necessary as well. You don't really want to most of the time. I think exactly one is the sweet spot. Is it's kind of like Heritagery, right? You don't really want two similar thing, so I've kind of like reduced the chances of that happening. Obviously, I think between the fourth ones and fourth Shepherd, probably the fourth Shepherd only because it's less likely to lose you a game. The fourth ones is more likely to lose us a game. So what I've done with this deck is it already has a very high power level. I think that's like self-explanatory. Like Guy's Cradle is arguably, alongside, LED, right, the most broken card in Legacy. And you have like a ton of ways to get it. I think there is like one potentially flex spot in the main, and that's the Fiend Artisan. It didn't really get to be great, but it wasn't a liability per se. It did win, or at least it drew out the Pithing Needle, which is pretty big in the one post matchup. Otherwise, it was threatening to lock up the game with opposition agent, right? So there was that. I think agent notably is a huge blowout, or sometimes doesn't do anything, right? Like, and obviously I don't want to. I boarded it out game 3 against Allurin because of that. That is a good point, answered Key Gaming, but you have to keep in mind one of those three is different than the other. Namely, the Glimpse can just solo a game, whereas a Shepherd or a Heritage cannot, right? The reason why I'm not running 3 is because I think the options that we have are not on the same power level as Glimpse of Nature. If they were like, I don't know, if I could play like a fifth Green Sun Zenith, for instance, right? I think that would be reasonable. But I just don't think there's a card on the same power level as Glimpse of Nature at the moment. But I don't think it is untouchable the way it once was, the fourth Glimpse of Nature, if that makes sense. Anybody have... Actually, I post my socials again here. But I think pretty strong outing, to be honest. Like, we lost a 5-0 match, and then we went 4-1 in the second league. Our losses today were to blue-red, but we went 2-1 overall, so I think I'm okay with that. It just hurts to lose the 5-0, but, can't win them all. And the one loss in this league was to Reanimator with the turn 1, right? Like, what can you do? And we moved to 5 already. With that said, I think if there's no other questions, I think definitely as promised. Today, yeah, it didn't feel like the Archon would have been great, like in the matchups that we had. I think to Delver, I don't think I would change anything, right? We even had the Snuff Out, which was, I think, the correct call in hindsight. The other loss was to Reanimator again. The trap not particularly great there, but it would have been a crop rotation, and we didn't draw anyway, so not the end of the world. I think overall, I'd probably run it back. It felt okay, to be honest, and it's to be seen whether this is worth it. These two cards. I think it's for now. I'm leaning the agent being a 3-drop that you kind of have to have naturally if you don't run Artisan is a big turnoff. I think for now, I would lean yes, but it can go either way. I think. Can you go through your sideboard cards and explain which decks they are for? Sure. Do you want? Okay, I'll just do them all. I guess. We'll start with the most important cards, followed by the least most important cards. So, let's. Okay, I think endurance and Thoughtseize are pretty much locks. Like, there's no list I'm running without the 7 cards, right? Because I just think they're just too versatile, too good, and addresses the matchups that need to be addressed, namely combo, and flexible enough to come in other matchups, namely endurance against Delver and these Euro pals, and Thoughtseize against these Jeskai control decks and along those lines, right? I think these are uncuttable. I think the Caracas is not uncuttable, but pretty much well worth the 1 slot because of the weakness otherwise to Merit Lage decks. Um, the way our deck is built at the moment right now, we have 6 cards to board out against Delver. So we're at 8 spots, right? We have 6 to board out against Delver, namely the 3 natural orders, the Cradle of the Progenitus, and the Collective. So 6 cards. That means between the rest of the 7 cards, I need 3 more cards to plug in. If you're playing a singleton oof, seems better than trap. I'm not sure I understand what you're trying to say, Sager. Are you trying to say the second oof? So, in addition to the 3 endurances, I want 3 more cards to fully board out the really bad cards against Delver, and they end up being removal spells. My current split is 1 Snuff Out, 2 Murderous Cut. It could be the other way. If you want Assassin Trophy, that's like within reason. I think more than anything else, the key point is it has to kill Murktide Region at the moment. Unfortunately, that's the reality. So if you want to play Trophy, that's fine. If you like, 2 Snuff Outs instead of 1, right? If you want to split the other way to have game against these Reclaimer decks, I think that's reasonable as well. Or if you even want to play 3 Murderers, because I think that is even a possibility. I do not think 3 Snuff Out is reasonable, but I think 3 Cut is probably significantly worse than 2-1 split. I think so. That gets us to, let's see, 7, 8. That gets us to 11. So we have 4 cards left, and for the most part, I would say 11 is kind of the stock list, right? Like, it's gonna be the 8 plus 3 removal spells of your choice, and then we get to the last 4 flex spots. The reason the next 2 slots are the duress, and the reason why I like to duress is because they tend to be high floor. The matchups you really want them in is against combo. In most of the time, they're essentially a Thoughtseize that doesn't cost you 2 life. Obviously, there are some exceptions to that, namely Seek and Show is the biggest one. But I think for the most part, they are. I want high floor cards that are always good, and essentially, I think the combo matchup is good enough where I don't need haymakers per se, and I just want to make sure that I don't mulligan often. And the rest essentially is Thoughtseize 5 and 6. The reason why I'm not playing 8, for now at least, is because you open yourself up to something like Veil of Summer. The more discard you play. Also, you want a little bit of variety because not every deck is going to be weak against these discard spells. So the last 2 cards are the Trap and the Agent. The Agent, obviously, I'm testing because of the Artisan, being able to tutor for it. The Trap, the reason why it's not Collector Oof, although it could be, is because I want disruption that is early. So what I mean by that is, like, a lot of times against like the Epic Gamble or the Epic Storm, you're probably not gonna get to turn 2, and Trap gives you like a 10% chance of just hosing those decks, right? Obviously, if I'm not playing Agent or Artisan, this could be the second Trap. But I also think the first crop rotation actually does a lot because it gives you another Graveyard Hate and another copy of Caracas while being a proactive card in case you have a combo hand. As a 5th Guy's Cradle, right? So those tend to be the flex spots. And obviously you can play the Archon too if you want Natural Order to be a 1-card win. Definitely think it's still very good. I just, for testing purposes, not playing it at the moment. Because I think the matchups where you really miss it, I think, is against Painter. And I think you really miss it against Ant. And the reason being is because in those matchups they tend to be slower combo decks, and you can actually you can reliably get to natural order without it being lethal. So those are the reasons. But I think the second oof is like okay. I just don't think you're gonna get to a turn two most of the time against like the decks you actually really want it for. And you don't care about 8 cast because that's like probably the best matchup, right? Anybody else have any questions? Actually, very fun stream today, I must say. And again, here the socials are there, and then if you like my content, obviously, feel free to subscribe on Twitch as well or Patreon. Notably, a Twitch subscription will get you access to the monthly meta call from Patreon. What is the worst matchup? So that's a great question, Shade920. It's been different throughout, I would say, the last 2 years. I think early 2021, my mission was to fix the Doomsday matchup. And out of the popular decks, I think it was kind of the worst one at the time. I think Endurance has really changed that. Same with Assassin's Trophy, figuring out how to just blow up their lands. And now Boseiju, right? I think Doomsday is actually positive now, slightly. So at the beginning of 2022, though, this year, I think the worst matchup was lands. Notably, I think I figured out how to play against that deck as well, thanks to the Cabal, right? Between Romario, Inigo, and Yurg, I realized Glimpse of Nature is a liability in the matchup. And it's a card that we boarded out for the Moon Snobby matchup. So I started doing that in the lands matchup and bringing the Endurances in. I've found the matchup to be heavily reliant on whoever goes Hellbent. Essentially, whoever goes Hellbent wins because that means you cast larger spells, right? Wait, using Assassin's Trophy as a wasteland, more or less Shade920. So before, if they go like turn 2 Dark Ritual Doomsday, or turn 1 Dark Ritual, if you're on the play, right? You can go turn 2 Assassin's Trophy their land, which is like typically Underground Sea, and that will like mess up their pile. It's just another obstacle for them to play around. And that is another matchup, by the way, that I board out Glimpse of Nature, which has been boarded out more than I would say ever before. Not because I think it's gotten weaker, it's just that we don't need it now in certain matchups. Before it used to be a win condition, but who needs to win when your opponent can't? Who needs to win when you can't lose? Is probably the best way I can explain it. And I think the current worst matchup is probably the one that unfortunately relies on Mindbreak Trap, which is the Epic Gamble or the Epic Storm. I think Gamble is probably worse because it's turn 1. Epic Storm is probably one of the worst matchups, but being a turn 2 deck most of the time. Ant is probably fine, and the big reason being is because Endurance has Tex against Ant and has Tex against Doomsday. Reclaimer has Tex against Sneak and Show, whereas Reclaimer and Endurance do not matter against, for the most part, against the Epic Gamble and the Epic Storm. So hopefully that answers your question, Shade920. The best matchup would be 8 casts, followed by, in my opinion, probably Death and Taxes. Blue Zenith is probably up there as well. And even though we lost today to it, I think the Reanimator matchup is actually quite good. So those tend to be what decks I want to play against. Obviously, you can lose, especially against Reanimator when they are virtually starting up a game. But for the most part, I'll bring it up here actually. Here's my win rate as of late. Just a show. But actually, it's kind of hard to show without. All right. Let's do it this way. I can print screen because I don't want to share the link since it's on Excel. Yeah, we'll do it this way. All right. Here, yeah, the last 8 matches, 8-0 against Reanimator. Obviously this is skewed. Okay, according to this, Jeskai particularly probably maybe potentially needs work. Seeing a show, I think like outdated. The data is like potentially outdated, but yeah, 8-0 against Reanimator. I think 6-1 against Blue Red. Obviously, we lost a day. Some of the other small sample sizes are way too small, so kind of irrelevant, right? Like these are the last, I don't know what it is, 40 days or whatnot. But yeah, hopefully that gives some insight into the matchups. But yeah, Reanimator definitely one of the better matchups. I think at one point I won like 12 in a row against 8 cats or something like that as well, before losing on stream, ironically as well. I think with that said though, if there are no more questions, we can go ahead and raid. Let's see. The Will Hall. Okay, there's Geeky Jackson. There's Cube Trophy Leader. I'll do that. I'll raid Geeky Jackson. Thank you. Oh, okay. Go ahead, Shade. Do I ever play Vintage? I have tried it, but not lately. I worked on the elf version of this deck with Justin Ganari, um, who is like one of the prime Vintage players, foremost Vintage players at the moment. So I'm not an expert on it, but I have dabbled in it. Not much though. But I did work with him and some others on the Vintage version of elves. So he reached out to me because he, I guess, values my opinion on the elf subject matter. Notably, he also realized how insane Reclaimer is as a card. So between that and Deathrite, you have a lot of game against these graveyard decks in Vintage. So with that said, I will now go ahead and raid Geeky Jackson. Thank you everybody for hanging out tonight.